Today on What's Next.
The heart is important to take care of too, and I don't just mean, with eating nutritiously. I mean just being a good person these days. Put the love out. That's it. Put the love out.
I feel like food, well, not only does it nourish your body, but I feel like it brings people together.
If you want to prevent a disease, you can't really use medicines, and there's no better approach than using food.
Hello and welcome back to What's Next. This is the show with a mission that is nothing short of rebranding aging from a time of loss and limitation to one of passion, purpose, and possibility. I'm Mark Middleton, and today we're going to focus on two themes that we all love, family and food. So let's bring in the Growing Bolder family. We've got Cecily Wilson, Amy Sweezy, and Bill Schaefer. And Amy, I've met your parents. I know you've been close to your grandparents. Give us one health lesson that you've learned from an elder that sticks with you even to this day.
Well, when I was a kid, I didn't like this benefit very much, but that was my mom had the rule, no sugar cereal. So I couldn't have any of the fun stuff like Fruit Loops. And that sticks with me today, knowing that I need to start my day with a healthy breakfast. Of course, I've passed that on to my kids who are also not very happy with it, much like I wasn't.
No Captain Crunch. That would have been tough for me. Yeah. A good lesson, though. When you think of adults who are leading healthy lives as they age, musician and actor John Stamos certainly comes to mind. John is a very engaging guy, and we recently chatted about his diet and exercise choices, but the conversation turned very quickly to family and the influence that different generations can have on one another when it comes to making those lifestyle choices. Take a listen. I think people hear John Stamos, they imagine you're being followed around by nutritionists and personal trainers and massage therapists and Reiki masters. And what is your secret beyond your diet?
None of that happens. Beyond my diet, I drink the blood of Rob Lowe. That helps. No, I exercise quite a bit. I swim, and I chase my 3-year-old around quite a bit. But my wife is, super healthy too, and so we just take care of each other. And also, the heart is important to take care of too. And I don't just mean, with eating nutritiously. I mean just being a good person these days, because boy, the world has as you know, it has changed quite a bit and gotten a little darker and a little harder to get through each day. So, put the love out. That's it. Put the love out.
So now in your late 50s, approaching 60, what are your thoughts about aging in general, John? Are you excited about it? Are you bothered by it?
That's a good question. It's everything's different now that you have a kid, right? I never really thought about my mortality much. I was just like, hey, let's go, baby. And now I was like, well, I gotta slow down. I gotta take care of myself because I gotta take care of my son and my wife. So I'm very conscious of it now because I want to be a good, healthy example to my son.
Well, what can you share with us that you've learned about the keys to a successful, happy, engaged life? Because it seems like you figured it out.
My dad was a great example. He owned fast food restaurants, and I'd watch the way he treated people, and he would treat the busboy the same way he would treat the best customer that came into his restaurant, and that's always stuck with me. And I just care about people, and I think I got it from him. And my mom, I always said about my mother had enough love to fuel a small country. She just would gush love, and she would find the best part of you, and that's how she would define you by. So, my parents had a lot of influence in that, and I think it's just for right now. If I don't have any answers, but for me, gratitude. I mean, the more I am thankful and grateful for what I have in my life, the better I feel.
Guys, when you talk to celebrities, a lot of times they have a very specific agenda. They've given you some of their time to promote something that they're doing right now. But sometimes guys like John Stamos actually come to engage in a very real way. They're responsive to whatever you ask them. And Cecily, he did make a very good point about qualities like empathy and compassion being passed down from generation to generation. I know you've experienced some of that in your own life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the one thing that my mother has always taught me, to be kind no matter what. No matter what someone says to you, always be kind. She would say, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And that's something that I say to my children even to this day. If you don't have anything to say nice, be quiet.
You know, Mark, I loved what you said about John there being so genuine and coming across so real. And isn't it funny that that kind of gets our attention these days? And I think that brings me to the other point that he made that I think is really strong. It's that thing that we got to get out of our head about, it's not do as I say, it's do as I do. And when you're raising a 3-year-old or a 17-year-old or a 30-year-old, it's always how we live our lives that are going to impact the people around us the most. So we have to really believe in what we're saying in order for anyone else to think, you know what, that's for me too.
Point.
You know, when I think about my parents, it's generosity is the first word that comes to mind, and not necessarily with their money, because we didn't have a lot of money growing up. It was more about the generosity with their time. You know how the old saying that 90% or 10% of the people do 90% of the work? That was my parents, involved in school or work or church or whatever organization they were part of. They were always the first to volunteer, the first to step up, and they were very generous with their time, and they did lead by example.
And it's reflected in your personality, Amy, as well. You know, I have to admit, when I asked John about the keys to leading a healthy life, I was expecting him to talk about push-ups and intermittent fasting and stuff like that, but he turned it into something far more powerful when he identified having a good heart and gratitude as the keys to healthy living.
I love to prove people wrong. So, and not when it comes to food, because I love when people are like, oh, I hate healthy food, I can't do this, I don't eat that, I don't eat this. And then if they try it, they're like, oh, that's actually pretty good.
Well, welcome back to What's Next. We're really glad you're here because we're talking about something today that we all probably like. Me, maybe a little too much. We're talking about food. It's good for your body and it's important for your soul, especially if preparing it brings you together with family and loved ones, like someone we met who side by side with her mom is on a mission to prove that healthy food in so many ways can be delicious.
You know what's so funny is I love to prove people wrong. So, and not when it comes to food, because I love when people are like, oh, I hate healthy food, I can't do this, I don't eat that, I don't eat this. And then if they try it, they're like, oh, that's actually pretty good. I love when that, can love when that happens.
Collette Haw wants to prove us wrong to serve us right. Only in her mid-30s, she's a culinary entrepreneur with a purpose to convince you that taking care of yourself can be a tasty task through her restaurant aptly named Nourish Coffee Bar and Kitchen.
Our main priority here is to cook absolutely delicious food and also be healthy. All of our smoothies don't have any extra sugars. The only sweetness comes from natural fruit. We have an organically grown coffee, and also down to our to-go wares, all biodegradable, compostable, because we're thinking about the environment as well.
Part of the reason she's so determined to give back is because so many were willing to help her along the way.
It takes a lot of self-motivation to do certain things, and you have to have a certain drive. But I feel like having good people around you, good family around you really helps. If you have somebody helping support your dream, it's just so much better than doing it on your own.
One of the people who offered that support is Central Florida restaurateur John Rivers, creator of the Four Rivers Restaurant, the most successful barbecue chain in Florida. Rivers believes in mentorship. He opened his doors to Collette and made the time to become one of her greatest influences.
She wasn't doing it to build wealth. She wasn't doing it to build fame. She was doing it because she loves cooking and she loves giving back and sharing that healthy approach in life that she's learned and adopted to help other people. And those are the folks that you want to pour into the most. And I love what she's doing over at Nourish.
I feel like his mentorship really grounds you. He definitely has an amazing story, and he is so down to earth, and he just makes you feel like you can do it. Even my parents and my grandparents, even my aunts and uncles, everybody in my family, like when we get together, we cook. We've never had a bad meal in my family. We all have these family recipes, and my Aunt Sandy put together this whole family cookbook. I feel like food, well, not only does it nourish your body, but I feel like it brings people together. And especially when you are cooking for somebody, it's almost like an act of love, because you want to like please those, people, and you want to have that reaction like when you're feeding somebody, like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Like that to me is everything.
How has your mom helped you in your journey?
Oh my goodness, my mom means everything to me.
Colette's mom, Sharon Felger Haw, doesn't just support her, she's right there in the kitchen, baking desserts that prove how delicious healthy can be. But her most important role has been to simply offer support, something that can still make her emotional.
What are the qualities that you see in her that you're the most impressed with?
She's very strong.
You couldn't be more proud of her, could you?
No, I couldn't.
I mean, she's fought through some challenges. And she's trying to make a difference for people.
Yeah.
And that's your little girl.
I know.
Wow.
But too often these days, family and food take a backseat to convenience, something Haw is convinced does not have to happen.
Yeah, it's so funny because I do hear a lot of people say they don't have a lot of time to cook, or they don't have, and we all have life stressors, maybe meal prep, so that way during the week you can eat healthier options.
Or she hopes that people will visit Nourished to dine in or stock up on takeout meals so that something good for you is no further than a microwave away.
Here comes Collette, and here comes Nourish.
Yeah.
And you're not ready to serve us a meal, you're ready to change our lives.
Hopefully.
Through your classes,
Yeah.
through what you serve at the restaurant, through your personal interactions with people.
Yeah.
You're on a mission.
Yeah.
You're on a mission to change our lives.
I would hope so.
Very nice. Bill Schaefer continues to lead the league in making people cry. I think he had two of them in that interview, Bill. The story has so much to offer as we all plan our what's next. What do you think, Bill, is the biggest takeaway from Colette's mission to show people that healthy meals can, in fact, be delicious meals?
I think I'm going to draw on my own experience. We all know that's true. Why do so few of us do it? I think that here's the deal. When this country, we work all day, we come home, and the first thing you think is not, can I get a healthy meal? You're thinking, how quick can I sit down and start shoveling it in? So in order to eat healthy, you need to have shopped healthy, so the stuff is already at your house. You need to know how to make it, and things are expensive in the grocery stores today, folks. You got to know you're going to like it, so you're not wasting. There's just so much that goes into it, but if you put a little work into it, and you start to understand, and it comes together, and you have your favorites, you'll never look at the junk that we eat ever again.
You sound like you know how to cook, Bill, but I know better than that. Cecily, we saw Colette's mom welling with pride in that story, seeing her little girl pursuing her passion of owning a restaurant with a really positive goal. How do you think people can learn to combine the powers of food and family together in their own homes?
Yeah, well, I know during the Christmas holidays, my family always gets together, and we have something that we call our annual family sweet treat challenge. And it's so competitive. The Wilson family is very, very competitive, and we get together and we judge the sweet treats. It's not very healthy, but it's oh so good. And it's that time that we know we're gonna come up with the most decadent dessert and sweet treat and figure out who is taking home the coveted apron. So that is our time for us to come together, and we look forward to it every single time.
Purple potatoes kill colon cancer stem cells. Like, we can't even do that in pharmaceuticals, but we can do it using purple potatoes is pretty amazing.
Welcome back to What's Next. And of course, it's no secret that making changes in our diet can help us lead longer, healthier lives. Most of us think that the main reason we need to eat healthier is simply to lose weight, but some foods are so good for us they can actually help prevent cancer and other diseases as well. Dr. William Li is an internationally renowned physician. He's a scientist, and he's the author of a book called Eat to Beat Disease. And we spoke with Dr. Li about the growing interest in food as preventative medicine.
We spend way too much time treating disease, the horse out of the barn, rather than preventing them. And number two, if you want to prevent disease, you can't really use medicines, and there's no better approach than using food. One of the things that I wrote about in my book is how we tested cancer drugs and anti-inflammatory drugs and statins. And then we threw foods in the same system, and lo and behold, in many cases, the foods went head to head, and in some cases beat the drugs themselves. And so this actually makes people take this idea really seriously. And I'll just give you a couple of foods I think people will be interested in. When it comes to immunity, broccoli sprouts, the baby broccolis, if you put them into a shake and you gave it to people who are getting a flu vaccine, drinking the broccoli shake improved immunity by 22 times. Purple potatoes kill colon cancer stem cells. Like, we can't even do that in pharmaceuticals. Tomatoes, eating 2 to 3 cups of cooked tomatoes, a half cup serving apiece, 2 to 3 times a week can lower the risk of prostate cancer by almost 30% in men. Soybeans, soy foods, cuts off the blood supply feeding breast cancers. And a study of 5,000 women show that having 10 grams of soy protein a day lowers the risk of death from breast cancer by about 30%. So that's just a couple of examples of foods that are useful against cancer.
Amazing news, and really good news for all of us. Dr. William Li giving us a glimpse into the power of food. You know, it's the ultimate double-edged sword, though. How we eat, what we eat, bite by bite, is killing many of us, but it can also give us vitality and, as Dr. Li notes, prevent sickness and disease. And this is not new news, folks. I think it was thousands of years ago that Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said, "Let food be thy medicine." Here's one simple key to remember: less is more. Buy whole foods with fewer ingredients, because those are the ones that are minimally processed. Welcome back to What's Next. Time now for our Your Take social media question. This week on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, we ask, what is one of your healthy habits that you'd recommend to some other people? And many of our viewers, like Beth, Terry, Pam, and Annie, all pointed out that they have a love of walking outdoors. Another popular response was the importance of drinking lots of water throughout the day. Deb says practicing art in some form every day, while Lynn and Myrna both like to do yoga. You know, it's also refreshing to see that many of our viewers, like Anthony, Maud, Deborah, and Carol, all suggest habits to work on our mental health and our perspective, which I think is critically important for everybody. Sess, what's one of the healthy habits that you'd recommend to the rest of us?
Okay, I definitely have to say that's walking. And I know that